there.
Okay, you're saying there is solid evidence, but you're also conceding that it may be impacted by the statute of limitation. Puneet Ahluwalia, is the Trump camp nervous? Why target the judge? Why target the venue? You know, the Donald Trump, he's called the judge partisan. He's saying this venue is unfair. Why fear that he may not get a fair trial here?
I'm not affiliated with the Trump camp. I'm more focused on the condition and the future of our nation and the politics that is being played and democracy. The Constitution is being eroded and foundationally being challenged and changed by the progressive liberal agenda which is in place. So this is very concerning. I believe, as we've discussed before, that President Trump takes every adversity and translates into a successful money machine for himself and for his candidacy for president. At the same time, I'm very happy for the New Yorkers, especially the shopkeepers, who have enough police to stop the crime spree that's going on or has been going on, and it'll be at least at a standstill. So the mayor and the public prosecutor is doing their job at least for one day.
Okay.
So this is, again, a big circus, and it's unfortunate. And I believe a lot will translate in after. This is an ongoing saga. So this is to basically captivate the American public and the world to see how our democracy is being destroyed.
Mr. Shah, would you quickly want to respond? The Republicans say this is a circus and the world is seeing how American democracy is being destroyed or how courts are being misused.
Yes, it is Trump that is making it into a circus. Otherwise, it's a legal issue and lawyers need to debate it and the judge and the jury have to decide. But Trump is making it into a circus, and that's unfortunate. On the issue of politicizing, anything you do with Trump is political. He is going to gain Republican votes, and he may end up a nominee as a consequence, because more Republicans will be wanting to support him. But by the same token, he is losing votes on the other side, meaning as soon as he becomes a nominee, he will be faced with the general election. And in the general election, he's eroding votes at the same time. So, I mean, it's a very dichotomous situation, where on one hand, he may be temporarily gaining, but only to lose later.
Ambassador Sarna, last word to you on this part of the show. How do you see this pan out? So it's advantage Trump as far as the Republicans are concerned, but what does this do to the fence sitters in the presidential elections in 2024, sir?
No, I think it is advantage Trump in terms of the immediate Republican fallout. But if he does become the nominee for the Republicans, which may look likely today, but there's a lot of stuff to happen over the next year or so.
Yes.
If he does become a nominee for the Republicans, then these indictments and arraignments will be a huge disadvantage. When he goes into debates with the possibly with Biden, then this is going to be a huge amount of baggage to overcome. So that's where it is at the moment.
Okay, we'll be tracking this story very, very closely. For joining me here on this India Today special broadcast, many thanks. I need to slip into a quick break at this stage. But when we come back at 11 o'clock, remember 11:45 is when Donald Trump has to be in that New York criminal court, in that Manhattan criminal court. He has to move from Trump Tower. That's likely to happen anytime around 11, and we have reporters on ground at the Trump Tower. We have reporters on ground at the criminal court. We'll get you that big story and the best images here on India Today. A quick break. Sakshi Batra comes up next with Business Today. Stay tuned.
One way to do up your home or your office is to just keep it simple, to keep it minimalist. The ones known to be masters of minimalism even in fashion, Abraham and Tagore stamped just this in the capacity of designers who are now into the design innovation in home decor space too.
To tell you the truth, we actually launched our business with both the collections. The focus was with the homeware collection that we launched in London at the Conrad shop many years ago. And we haven't really done it in India. So we are actually relaunching it. It's more of a relaunch for us.
Fashion and home lifestyle is always it's always intertwined together actually. And I think it's a big part of what we do, bringing fashion and home lifestyle together, which brings in the actual play of ceramics into it. And the play of that coming as big bowls and plates, as well as crockery and cutlery.
Minimalism is timeless. Keeping home decor simple involves selecting a few key pieces that complement each other and arranging them in a way that feels cohesive and visually appealing.
Personally, I like minimalism because I think it requires more discipline. Everything has to be simpler, purer, and you can build on it. I mean, maximalism is valid too, but it's just another style, and this is a style that we are comfortable with.
Part of every collection, whether it's fashion or it's the home, always is introduced with a black and white line, which I think is accessible to everybody, all ages.
Keeping it simple can be simplified further. Simply begin by using neutral color palettes, whites, beiges, grays, blacks, what have you. Less is more, so do not clutter. Use decor made of natural and sustainable materials to create a sense of calm and tranquility. Choose pieces that are timeless. In New Delhi with Vaishnavi Kaharwar, Lifestyle Bureau, India Today.
Hello and welcome. You're watching the Business Today show. I'm Sakshi Batra and here's the top news. As crude prices go up, is it the right time to invest in gold? Business Today TV gets you an expert view on this. Is the rural Indian economy still in distress? Two-wheeler and tractor sales still below pre-pandemic levels. Analysts fear the El Nino effect could derail economic growth in villages and small towns. World Bank lowers the GDP growth estimate for 2023-24 to 6.3% from 6.6% earlier. Warns that rising interest rates and slower income growth will hit private consumption. Adds that external factor will continue to weigh heavy on India. Byju's raises $700 million in fresh funding round. Deal values it at $22 billion. Capital infusion to help edtech major avoid a debt crisis. Elon Musk has another change in store for Twitter. Dogecoin's dog replaces the popular bluebird symbol. Users wonder, is it a delayed April Fool's gag or a change for real? A surprise output cut by OPEC Plus has rekindled fears of prolonged inflation and triggered uncertainty about the central bank's response. This in turn has led to a retreat in the US dollar, thereby burnishing the appeal for gold. The question now is whether this surprise output cut by OPEC Plus will drive inflation hedge for gold, pushing prices higher. Earlier in the day, I spoke to Navneet Damani, Head of Research for Commodities at Motilal Oswal Financial Services, to find out where are gold prices really headed from here and whether it is the right time to invest in the yellow metal. What exactly is the correlation between crude oil and gold, and what do the current elevated crude oil prices really mean for the gold prices as well?
Well, Sakshi, thank you for having me on the show. Well, it's a very interesting combination between crude, inflation and gold prices, and dollar is in the center of all this. Now we got to see that what is happening in the world for the last 1.5 years. We've seen higher inflation and a lot of central bank action to curtail this inflation. Now, to top it up, crude oil prices were in corrective mode from $100 to about $70. Journey has been taken probably 1 year's time frame. And ever since $70 was breached, say probably in the last month, market participants had aggressive short positions. They started to believe that inflation would start to cool off. Along with inflation, crude oil prices are likely to correct further, which is going to be adding another cushion. And Fed will not need to jack up rates very aggressively from here on. But there has been a sudden shift where OPEC plus nations have stepped in and wanted to send a strong message to the world that they are still the price controllers or price drivers of crude oil prices globally. Short positions were aggressive, as I mentioned, and that led to a massive covering, which led to a spike of about 7 to 8% in Brent and WTI prices. And to top it up, this is all going to add to inflationary concerns eventually, and which will force the Fed to probably look towards more tapering of rates in the near future, and that doesn't bode very well for the dollar, which has been in corrective mode from 104 levels. We are seeing dollar toward 101, 102 levels, and has been positive for gold prices.
The investors at this point in time are quite nervous and confused as to how should they be really approaching their investments to gold at this point in time. Looking at the macroeconomic uncertainties right now and a lot of developments that you also believe that you will be tracking over the next month or so, what are you advising investors to do at this point?
Well, if you are invested, stay put. If you want to buy gold for say probably marriage purpose, you can get better entry levels. If you want to be an investor in gold, this is not the right time. Maybe say 3-4% upside momentum could be witnessed in the next few weeks and months, but beyond that, I do not see gold prices heading and sustaining well. So I would like investors to stay away at this point in time, and if at all gold prices surge about 3-5% from here, investors who are already invested can look to book some profit and look for alternate investments.
Right. So in the end, you know, FY24, we've just begun for this entire financial year, looking at the kind of macros that we are looking at currently. Your own sense of the kind of levels that we may see for this financial year?
Well, briefly, we may head towards $2,100 also. That may be an outrageous call because we've seen that most of the indicators are indicating a gold price rally from here on 15-20% momentum, but I believe that 3 to 5% is what I see in gold prices from here. But on the downside, a 10 to 15% correction is where I see gold prices settling as we approach the end of 2024.
So in INR also, what is the kind of levels that you're looking at?
In INR terms, maybe in best case 62,000, but on the downside 55,500 is where I see gold prices ultimately heading.
Even as India emerges as a shining spot in the world economic map, Bharat is still struggling with post-COVID pains. Two-wheeler sales in rural areas, a major indicator of the rural economic health, are still well below their pre-COVID levels. What's worrying policymakers is the possibility of El Nino in the summers, which could lead to a further deterioration in the rural India's growth.
47% of India's population depends on agriculture for livelihood. 65% of country's population still lives in rural areas. So it's no surprise that nearly half of India's GDP depends on rural economics. And if the latest auto sales figures are anything to go by, the health of rural economy is far from ideal. According to data released by Federation of Automobile Dealers Association, FADA, two-wheeler sales in 2022 and 23 were down 9% from their pre-COVID levels, much in part due to non-performance in rural areas, which remains under inflationary pressure. The financial year, which ended on 31st March, was the first full year without COVID impact. Though two-wheeler retail sales grew 19% versus 2021 and 22, they are still below the pre-COVID years. Passenger vehicle retail sales grew 23%, while commercial vehicle sales zoomed 33%. Tractor sales languished with just an 8% growth, once again displaying the post-pandemic pangs in Bharat. Two-wheelers and tractors are well-accepted barometers of rural economic health, which has faced the brunt of high prices. Inflation has particularly hit consumption in rural India, with not just the auto sector clocking lower sales, but consumer electronics and FMCG products as well. Unseasonal rains have also pressured the rural economy, which was already reeling under migrant labour returning home during the COVID period. What is worrying more for policymakers is the expected El Nino effect, which may hit monsoons this year. Poor rains will hamper rural India's growth potential as well as raise prices of agricultural products. Analysts fear that this could further hit the fortunes of those residing in villages and small towns. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
It's a shocking result for two of the most popular cars in India. The Maruti Suzuki WagonR has scored a miserable 1 star in adult occupant protection in crash tests by Global NCAP. For child occupant protection, the car has earned 0 stars. Another small car from the Maruti Suzuki stable, the Alto K10, has received 2 stars for adult occupant protection and 0 stars for child occupant protection. 2 other cars crash tested, the Volkswagen Virtus and Skoda Slavia, though in a different, more premium segment, received the highest rating of 5 stars for adult and child occupant protection. Reliance Industries could be headed for uncharted territory beyond the 3,000 rupee levels very soon. A report by Jefferies has upgraded Reliance Industries' target price to 3,100 rupees ahead of the demerger of Jio Financial Services later this year. The brokerage expects JFS to get listed by September and has assigned a value between 134 and 224 rupees for its share price. Existing RIL shareholders are likely to get 1 JFS share for each share they hold in Reliance Industries. Jio Financial Services has been valued at 90 to 150,000 crore rupees by Jefferies. The Indian Infrastructure and Finance Company Limited has managed a remarkable turnaround in the past few years. The PSU's NPAs have fallen massively, and the company has also turned profitable after reporting losses just 3 years ago. BTTV's associate editor Chetan Bhotani caught up with R.J. Shankar, Managing Director, IFCL, and asked him about the turnaround and the infrastructure projects the company is helming.
A parliamentary committee on the public undertakings has showered praises on how you manage NPAs. Give us a highlight of what the report says and how the road sector has the lending been started under your guidance, sir.
This is only reassuring for us. We continue to move in the direction that we started about 3 years ago, and we have done a number of things. When you specifically asked what are the reasons could mean so many areas that we actually revamped the company. It's a turnaround in the last 3 years. From the NPA point of view, the NPAs were soaring somewhere around 20% about 3 years ago. It was even more, but the 31st March 2020 showed NPA of about 19.7%. We were able to contain the net NPA today to 1.7%. So I think it has come a long way, and it's all because of the focused recoveries. We had put in place a policy for managing the net performing assets, managing the overall NPAs, and also ensuring that our recoveries do well. And our recoveries have performed very well, and we have, recovered almost 50%, over 50% of what the write-offs have been. So I think that's been a very heartening note for us. And at the same time, we had to look at that time the company was posting losses. We had a operational loss during 2019-20, and we had to come out of it. We had to we were not having any pipeline, because infrastructure projects, infrastructure financing means, it's actually financing a project will take time. First you sanction, and then by the time the disbursements are there, it might be about 6 months, and then over a period of 2 years you disburse. So unless you have a sound, robust pipeline, no infrastructure company can perform well. So we needed to build a pipeline. At the same time, since the pipeline was not there, and if the company's outstanding were to, keep going, we needed to have some quick disbursements as well. So, because otherwise the base effect was also trying to catch up, because outstanding was the loan book was, shrinking. And on the other side, the NPA was growing. That was the scenario when I took over. And I think on one hand, while we put in place all the measures to contain the NPAs and, arrest the NPAs and do the recoveries, the other side was to ensure that we grow our books. And for this, we needed a very good resources and treasury, because at that time, our cost of funds was around the base lending rate of IFCL was around 9.7%, as compared to 7.8 to 8% MCLRs of the banks and State Bank of India. So we were very, very highly priced, and therefore we were not preferred lenders to the good projects. So we needed to correct that. So we needed to focus on resources and treasury, retire the high-cost borrowings. We had to kind of do a lot of rejig. We put in place a resources strategy. We had brought in an integrated risk management framework, an asset liability committee, more dynamic one.
Let's slip into a short break now. On the other side, a report on Twitter's iconic bluebird being replaced by Dogecoin's dog.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome back. A free trade agreement between India and the UK was expected by Diwali last year, and then politics happened. And now a deal is no longer any closer to be signed. India Today's Geeta Mohan caught up with the chairman of UK-India Business Council, Richard Held, for a conversation on the issues, the synergies and the deadlines.
Trade agreement between India and the UK have been going through negotiations and rounds of negotiations one after the other, and we've really not seen a conclusion. There were some announcements that there could be something around Diwali. 8 rounds of negotiations. Where do you see that headed, and do you see both sides iron out the niggling areas?
Well, as a starter, I'm pleased to say I'm not sitting around the negotiating table. My understanding is that we've been through, as you say, 8 rounds of negotiations. There are still certain outstanding points. Those include certain areas of tariffs. They include rules of origin, mobility, etc. Those areas, I think, are at a stage where I would expect the negotiation teams to involve political masters. I think there is still a strong willingness on both sides, and if not an imperative, that we wish to see a free trade agreement. Clearly, it's been going on for a long time. We are, both your country and ours, are going into a political cycle.
I was just going to ask you that.
All right, well, sorry, I anticipated that one. And I think clearly we want to get this out of the way. And as I said, it's an imperative for both sides, for UK as well as for India. So I'm hopeful that we will move forward.
But you made an important point. Elections around the corner.
Yep.
You see the Indian side already on campaign mode. Prime Minister Modi has been addressing rallies, going to various states, engaging various communities. And we're seeing the same on the other side in the UK as well. Everybody is certainly, in a way, on election day.
Yep.
In that, you think they'll give priority to a foreign policy decision that can really wait?
I think it is not something that can wait, personally. Why do I say that? Because business, both in the UK and in India, have been making plans, have been anticipating a free trade agreement. And therefore, the one thing that business does not like is uncertainty running forward. So I would sincerely hope that we will get a resolution. Yes, I understand that we are starting to come into political mode. Prime Minister Modi is a remarkably busy man at the moment, obviously as president of G20. And your elections are in May in 2024. We have to, in the UK, have elections by December of 2024. That's the maximum of our five-year term. So I think that both of us, yes, are starting to think about how the elections are going to pan out. But in that context, if you see that the UK has announced that it will be signing and joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and I think that shows a forward momentum in relation to the UK's attitude towards free trade agreements and trade agreements. So I'm positive. I remain positive.
What about the sticky areas of digital services, protection of British businesses, even Scotch whisky for that matter? A lot in conversation, but nothing really being worked out. Where do you see that?
Well, the way these things work, nobody talks about anything until it's actually unveiled. So yes, there are areas around Scotch whisky. The 150% tariff is not insubstantial. I always try and, if you like, put that in context, because there are other areas. It's not just about premium Scotch. It's about bottled in India, bulk imports, and how that will actually increase the domestic sector as well. In relation to the other areas that you talk, I think that there are other areas where we have to look at. Rules of origin is another quite significant part, and I'm sensitive to the Indian argument that they don't wish to have a rules of origin chapter which could allow imports from countries or composition of the percentage of the supply chain being if you like, supplied by countries who India is more sensitive to through the back door. So I think there are areas that have to be discussed. But these are coming to an area, as I said, where our politicians have to take decisions as to what is fundamental and what is negotiable.
And now an eye-popping amount of 35,000 crore rupees have been transferred to the RBI by the PSU banks in February. These were deposits lying unclaimed with the public sector banks for the past 10 years. The deposits belong to 102 million accounts. SBI tops the list with 8,086 crore rupees of unclaimed deposits, followed by Punjab National Bank with unclaimed deposits of 5,340 crore rupees. Canara Bank has transferred deposits of 4,558 crore rupees, while Bank of Baroda has transferred 3,904 crore rupees to the RBI. So can these deposits be reclaimed? And if yes, what is the procedure? Tina Jain Kaushal, editor Money Today, joins us in decoding the process. Tina, take it away.
If a bank account remains inactive for 10 years, money gets transferred to the RBI's Depositor Education and Awareness Fund every month. The important point to note here is the unclaimed money earns interest at rates specified by the RBI and not at the rate at which the deposit was made. Now, if you want to find out if you have any unclaimed money, then the process is not very complicated, as according to RBI regulations, every bank needs to display details of unclaimed accounts on their website. You just need to type the name of the person along with other details such as an address, PIN code or phone number to find out if any unclaimed amount is lying with the bank. If the name exists on the list, then to claim the funds, you need to contact the home branch and fill out a claim form, provide deposit receipt and furnish KYC documents. In case you are a legal heir or a nominee, a copy of the account holder's death certificate is also needed to be provided to the bank. The bank will then verify the authenticity of the claim, releasing the payment. Once the bank has paid the customer, it will submit a claim to the RBI at the end of the month to receive a refund from the DEF account. So if you have any unclaimed money, take the first step by checking the details on the website of the bank.
Thanks a lot, Tina, for that. And now a popular meme crypto token Dogecoin zoomed a whopping 30% earlier today after Elon Musk announced that Doge would replace the ubiquitous blue and white Twitter bird as the microblogging site's logo. While many considered it as a delayed April Fool's gag, others were horrified by the change. More on this from our correspondent Akansha Chaturvedi.
Meme cryptocurrency Dogecoin zoomed 30% after tech billionaire Elon Musk tweeted that the Shiba Inu dog from the meme coin would replace the Twitter bird as the microblogging site's new logo. The Shiba Inu dog now appears on the loading screen on the Twitter website. It has also taken the place of the display photo on Twitter's homepage. The development caused a massive rally in the price of Dogecoin. The crypto rallied to 10 cents from 7.7 cents in under 30 minutes. But this short-lived rally was limited to Dogecoin and did not cause much change in prices of major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and the others. The crypto market has shrunk to 1/3 of its value from its peak in late 2021. Furthermore, this stunt got a lot of flack since Musk's new Twitter team has not been able to make Twitter the utopia the billionaire promised while taking over it last year. Despite publicly announcing that the legacy verification mark would disappear by April 1st, the development has not taken place because reportedly Musk does not have enough employees to implement his plan. Musk is also under pressure from investors because of inefficiencies at his electric vehicle company Tesla Motors. The company's stock is down over 50% from its all-time high. Moreover, several reports of delayed deliveries are causing trouble for the company. It would be interesting to see how Musk salvages this situation. With Akshata Chaturvedi, BTTV, India Today.
And that's all that we have on this edition right now. But do stay tuned on to India Today for a whole lot more coverage coming up right on your screens.
watching India Today.
Hello and welcome. You're watching India Today. I'm Gaurav Sawant. History is being made in the United States of America and the world is watching. We're just about to show you images of the former US President Donald Trump reaching the Manhattan Criminal Court. These are images that you see of Trump supporters and of course protesters both outside the Manhattan Court in New York City. This 4-mile journey from the Trump Tower to the Manhattan Criminal Court. Donald Trump has just covered it and he's arrived at the Manhattan Court in New York. This is where the 45th US President, the former US President, will be first fingerprinted. Then he would be taken to the courthouse and the arraignment process will begin. Information as of now in public domain is that there are 34 counts. He will be indicted on 34 counts. The charges will be read out to him in court, and this is where Donald Trump will either have to plead guilty or not guilty. His legal team has made it very clear he will plead not guilty. He will say this is political persecution because he wants to run for president again in 2024. These are images that you see. There are more than 35,000 police personnel deployed in New York. Remember what happened on the 6th of January 2021 at the Hill. Clearly, all effort being made to ensure that Trump supporters do not barge into that Manhattan court. Multiple barricades put. I want to quickly cut across to Manhattan. Lenka White, my colleague, joins us with the latest. Lenka, take it away. Tell us what's happening. Donald Trump has just reached court.
Yes, correct. Donald Trump has just arrived. It was very tricky because we didn't know which side he's coming from. You know, it was actually on purpose so that people are confused and they cannot all gather at one place. He arrived from the back entrance and he's supposed to be now in the building. You know, the action itself should take originally about half an hour, but because it's the former president, we will yet have to see how long he will actually be inside. If it will be the standard half an hour, longer or shorter time, we don't know yet.
So tell us what's happening all around you. Show us what's happening, Lenka. Are there a number of Trump supporters there? Are there also those who oppose him, the protesters who say that finally action is being taken against him? Tell us what's happening. Show us around, Lenka.
You know, around me there are many barricades. I'm standing right behind from the court. The court is here. You can see behind me many barricades all around the court from all the sides you can imagine. Also on other streets around the court, there are all these barricades. There is also an ambulance in the back in case something would happen. There are helicopters above my head, about 3 of them flying right above the court. There are many, many cars and many police people. I have seen many Trump supporters inside the park in front of the court. There were about, I think, like 100 of them. You know, they were wearing funny clothing. They had billboards supporting Trump. So it's really interesting and sort of show-like atmosphere.
Okay, you said it's a show-like atmosphere there. Seema Sirohi is a senior journalist who joins us on the broadcast. Seema Sirohi is in New York. Also with us is Darius Mayfield. Darius Mayfield is a Trump supporter, is from New Jersey. So, Seema, this is history being made. Now, Donald Trump, the first image that we saw of him just a short while back was at the Trump Tower. He came out, he showed his fist. He waved to his supporters wearing that red tie. Does he have reason to be nervous? Does he have reason to be very worried this day in New York?
I don't know if he has reason to be worried. What he is doing, and his strategy has always been to be on the offensive. They have already indicated that he is going to plead not guilty. In the meantime, donations to his campaign are surging. Over the last few days, he has collected $7 million. And the emails are coming almost, on a minute by minute basis. So for him, this circus, this whole tamasha, if you will, works to his advantage. His poll ratings have gone up. A new poll that was out this morning by Yahoo and YouGov shows that he's beating Ron DeSantis, the other contender for the Republican Party nomination, by 26 points. So he's on the up and up, and he will use this indictment to his advantage, I feel.
Okay, Geeta, is that what Donald Trump is actually doing right now? As Seema very rightly pointed out, he will plead not guilty to all the 34 charges. That's the information that's coming in, 34 charges against him. But is he turning an adversity into a political opportunity in the run-up to 2024 elections?
Well, he indeed has in many ways than one. Like Seema just said, his poll numbers are only surging. He looks to convert all these difficult times and adversity into opportunities. And you'll see that, Gaurav, when he goes back to Florida and addresses the nation. Before that, the reports that are coming in from the United States of America is that Donald Trump, as of now, after entering the court, has been placed under custody. So this is a surrender, sort of a surrender arrest under police custody before the arraignment. 5 photographers would be allowed to go in, take photographs, come out, after which the proceeding is going to be very quick. They're going to list out the charges against him. And what we are also given to understand is that the team of lawyers for Donald Trump, they are going to maybe file a motion to dismiss the case. We are also looking at appeals from the defense. So let's see what really happens over here. In terms of conversations, you know that Donald Trump, he sees cameras, he does have to, or more often than not, speak. So there were reports.
Will there be a gag order? Because there are some reports that seem to indicate that there could be a gag order on him.
So Gaurav, there are two things. There were reports whether if he's going to speak in the hallway to and out of court after the arraignment proceedings. If and should there be a gag order by the court, he will have a very difficult time because it's Donald Trump we're talking about, and he really wants to go back and address the nation.
And that's about 5 a.m. Indian Standard Time that he would be addressing the media. But before we delve deeper into the charges against him and about Stormy Daniels and what this case is, I want to bring in Darius Mayfield into this conversation. Darius Mayfield, how would this be an opportunity for Donald Trump? Because the Democrats say finally the law is catching up with Donald Trump, and this may just be the first case. There are many more that will follow him, and they would be taken to their legal conclusion.
Yeah, well, he can definitely use it to his advantage politically, obviously, as he has, as your other guest pointed out. He's raised over $7 million in the few days since this happened. But I got to say, it is a little bit worrisome, even as a strong supporter of the former president and his policies, because there's a reason why they decided to do this in New York first. As you pointed out, there's multiple cases pending here in New York, Georgia, other places in regards to the documents they found at Mar-a-Lago and things of that sort. But in New York, outside of California, is probably the most partisan state there is in this country. This is a state that actually delivered 80% plus support for Joe Biden in the last election. And they're just a very partisan town that obviously has an utter disregard for the law, as you see with them bringing up what's usually deemed as federal charges on a state level. In fact, these are charges that the federal government has already declined to pursue against Donald Trump. And to have Mr. Bragg go after this, after telling us for years that they had so many things on this man, that he was just a career criminal, for them to come out with something as simple example as this just shows you how dirty they're willing to play and how bad they want to be able to stop him from running for office. Because at the end of the day, that's all this is about, stopping Donald Trump from running for office. And some of those other charges, if he's ever convicted on those, would do just that and allow him not to be able to run for office.
Okay, stay with me, and before I come back to Lenka White and to Seema Sirohi in the United States of America, let's take a look at this report that's coming in.
And in fact, the president himself posted on social media as he was on his way to the courthouse that the whole process seemed so surreal. This is what he said on Truth Social, his social media platform. He said, "I can't believe they are arresting me!" Exclamation point. So it is a bit surreal outside the courthouse as well. Everything just seems to be in a holding pattern, waiting for news to trickle out of the latest steps. And what will he say? Will he address the media? Will he address his supporters? His supporters have been beating drums in the park across the street from the entrance. Some of his detractors are there too. There are signs, people saying Trump 2024, Trump's other signs saying lock him up. There's just a lot of anticipation as we wait for more details on what these charges entail and what the next steps will be.
And just since we're talking about surreal, Kristen, maybe it's important to point out, and you can give us more detail on this, that being charged criminally, even if you're convicted, that doesn't stop you from running for the U.S. presidency, right?
It does not. There is no prohibition on a convicted criminal or an accused criminal from running for office. He can still run. Now, in the past, it would be unthinkable that someone who was convicted of a crime would be able to get enough votes to be elected, but we don't know. This is an older charge. Some of the details surrounding the Stormy Daniels alleged affair, he's always denied the affair, that came out around his first election. The allegations of campaign finance irregularities have been circulating as well. And a lot of his supporters have heard them before. They're not surprised and they're not bothered by it. We've spoken to many of them here who say that they see this as a witch hunt, to use the president's words himself, as a political persecution meant to influence the 2024 election. Of course, others say that justice must be served. No one's above the law. The president has had questionable dealings in the past, and finally they're coming to light. That's the other argument being made here. Of course, we'll see that firsthand once the court process gets underway and as things get going. But this will take months to work.
So Donald Trump has surrendered in court and he has been taken into custody. This is history being made. This is the first time ever that a former U.S. president is facing criminal charges. First time a former U.S. president arrives in a criminal court and he's taken into custody. He's surrendered. Lenka White with me from New York, from outside that Manhattan criminal court. Lenka, what's the procedure now? Once he's surrendered, is the Secret Service still with him? Is this where he gets fingerprinted? Because apparently no handcuffs and no mugshot.
That's a great question. You know, I spoke with his main lawyer yesterday, who actually told me that, of course, he's not going to get handcuffs because it's a former president. Yet he's going to get the mugshot and he should be getting fingerprinted. So some of the procedures will stay in place, but of course, based on the communication with the Secret Service, it's not all the way because of his position as a president. So, you know, unfortunately, we cannot be inside. There are only 5 allowed photographers to be inside. Even CNN was refused, but we are only guessing. But that's what I have gotten yesterday.
Okay, let me bring in Seema Sirohi for more on this. Seema, what's the buzz on ground? First time ever that a former US president is taken into custody. He'll be fingerprinted. Donald Trump says this is political persecution. Is this how America looks at it, or is America split down the middle on this?
America is split down the middle on almost every issue, including this one. And half the country thinks this is weaponizing the judicial system against a former president. The other half thinks that no man is above the law. But I want to point out one other thing. Of all the cases that are in process against Donald Trump, this was the least strong. Many legal experts have pointed that out. The one in Georgia about election interference, where he allegedly asked for extra votes, that is quite a strong case. So now, if this case falls apart, because the legal strategy in this case is very complex, and most legal experts don't think it's going to fly. So if this falls apart, what impact will it have on other cases? So as far as preventing him from running for office, the Democrats would actually like him to run, because majority thinks that Joe Biden can defeat him. He's defeated him once, he can defeat him again. So
very interesting.
Donald Trump to run.
Okay. So they build a weak case. This case falls apart. Amongst the Republicans, he gets to be the candidate, and then he's defeated in elections. That's quite a strategy, Darius. If that's the strategy, what does this then do to the fence sitters? Because if America is split down the center, split down the middle, it's perhaps the fence sitters who will decide. And will they be, taken in by that victim syndrome that Donald Trump is trying to build, or will they actually think, oh my God, there's someone who's faced these charges, he's going to be president? Darius, can you hear me?
Yes. Oops. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Go on, sir.
Okay. Yes. So, I actually happen to disagree with that assessment. I think that the previous guest said, I think Democrats absolutely are afraid of him to run for office, because they have a clear distinction now, right? Donald Trump was president before Joe Biden. Since Joe Biden's been president, we've seen every single thing in this country go the opposite way, from the border, from what's happening in Ukraine, from our inflation, from everything, from our energy prices. So people have a clear distinction between Donald Trump's presidency and Joe Biden's presidency. The lady that was speaking before said that it can't bar him from running for office, but it's not the charges in New York that can bar him from running for office. What can bar him from running for office are those charges having to do with mishandling classified information, right? So there's certain statutes in there that if he's convicted, will actually bar him from running for office. If Democrats weren't afraid of him, they wouldn't be going after him so much. So there's a reason, as I said before, they're starting in New York City, and it's going to be like a domino effect. New York City is probably the most likely place that they can try to get some type of conviction. And as what you were just saying, if they get a conviction there, or if it falls apart, it affects those other cases. So if they're able to get a conviction in New York City, that's going to bode well for those other cases. Again, if they weren't afraid of him, they wouldn't be stopping him from running for office, because with that clear distinction, Americans now understand we can protect our border. We can get quality education. We can have lower energy prices. But Democrats right now have literally ruined this country and are in the precipice of ruining the world. Right now, we have Saudi Arabia and China about to pretty much
I'll come to Saudi Arabia and China in just a moment, but for the benefit of this bulletin, I want to stay on the charges against Donald Trump, and we'll know them in a while from now. But Geeta, is this the reason? A hostile New York, a judge that Donald Trump says is hostile and is biased against him. Is this why Donald Trump says, move this out of New York, move it at least to Staten Island?
Well, that's right. If you heard Darius, and I'm talking to the viewers here, he did make some very important points. The fact that why was New York chosen, the fact that Donald Trump has been speaking about the judge, and the fact that the judge has not sided or even looked at Donald Trump's case from a positive view, or from a view that Donald Trump
Geeta, give me a moment. Shalabh Kumar, American industrialist and a close aide of former President Donald Trump, joins us on the broadcast. Mr. Kumar, how do you view these proceedings? The Democrats say finally the law is catching up with Donald Trump.
This is just a drama which benefits President Trump a great deal, as can be seen in the poll numbers that have gone through the roof, as well as the fundraising for president that has gone through the roof. The best way to describe what is happening is, last Friday, after this was announced, last Friday, general manager of one of our plants in Iowa came to my office and he says, "Mr. Kumar, you don't have to campaign anymore." Why? Because president is now going to just glide in. There is so much anguish in the country overall.
No, but will he just glide in as the Republican candidate?
Who decide?
Will he just glide in as the Republican candidate, Mr. Shalabh Kumar? Because the Democrats, as some argue, think that it is easier to defeat Donald Trump if he is the Republican candidate for presidency.
I'm not quite sure what the question was.
It was to you that is this a ploy to get him to be the Republican candidate for presidency in 2024?
No, the president is going to he's going to have a landslide victory. That's the last thing the Democrats want, because he is so popular. He is so right on every policy: energy independence, illegal immigration of 200,000 illegal people coming across the border from the south every month. 8 million people in 4 years that would have illegally entered the country, and the everyday worker, everyday American taxpayer has to pay $50,000. You can calculate that out. 8 million times $50,000 per year to support the illegals that are coming across. Inflation is out of control. You know, look at what's happening. What happened with Afghanistan? Look at the 10 million people that had to they had to leave from Ukraine, their homes. I mean, the world has gone into absolute chaos. Americans know this. So what they are afraid of is they are really, you see, actually there is a big debate in the Democrat Party. The very left, who just hates Trump, because Alvin Bragg ran on the campaign saying that if he's elected, he's going to find some crime for which he's going to charge him.
Shelley, Geeta Mohan here. Shelley, can I just weigh in? Just a quick question. You're talking about Democrats hating Trump, the fact that he could have a landslide victory, but this is one of the smaller cases that we're talking about. He's going to hit really rough weather when the bigger cases come in, and that will be right in the middle of the primaries and closer to the presidential race. What is Team Trump going to do then?
I'm not sure what the question is. I mean, who says over there there's going to be a trial? There's going to be a motion to dismiss because there is no basis. They cannot find a basis on which to have this indictment. All the jurists in the country saying this is stupid. This is just without any basis. So how could justice system of the United States allow a trial to go forward to have anything based on what? Nothing. There is
But I'm not talking about this case, Shelley. I'm talking about the other cases that that U.S. administration is looking into, be the Capitol Hill case, or for that matter, the charges against him when it comes to his business dealings. All that, and of course, the documents that he took away from White House and were found in his home in Mar-a-Lago. So all those cases are way more serious. How do you look at those cases playing out in the midst of primaries and the presidential race?
Okay, now that's a very good question, Shweta. That's a very good question.
Geeta.
Now, if they were smart and wanted to have some credibility, I mean, the document case is a useless case. The finances also is a useless case. But they would have found some support among even Republicans if they brought the charges against him on January 6th. That would have some credibility. Some people, some independents, some even Republicans will say, and of course the Democrats will say that, there would have been some. But the Democrats made a blunder by picking the wrong charge. That's just a pure blunder on their part.
Okay, you said it's pure blunder on their part. Give me a moment as I quickly bring in Lenka White. She joins us with some details that are coming in. So, Lenka, what more can you tell us? What's happening on ground? Some reports seem to indicate that he will now be fingerprinted. How long from now till the time that charges are read out, those charges that are in a sealed cover as of now?
I believe, this whole indictment should take about half an hour. But of course, I don't know how long all these administrative tasks are going to take. Again, it's a former president, so everything takes much, much longer. And it's also not only former president, but also Trump. So there is a big show, there's a big circus here. Things take much longer, and it's very hard to judge from outside as there are no media inside it.
Seema, this move that one, motion to dismiss, saying that the judge is biased, saying he will not get a fair trial in New York, saying move this to Staten Island, the first request, from his side, if motion to dismiss is not accepted. How do you see Trump's legal team pursuing this case?
See, that's what he does in every case. He sort of uses delaying tactics. And even in this case, it's the prosecutor started collecting the evidence several years ago. But some motion or the other was filed by the Trump lawyers. And even in this case, things reached to the Supreme Court twice. And both times Trump lost. So the thing is, this is a delaying tactic. But to the point about, whether he can get a fair trial in New York, it is true that Mr. Bragg talked about bringing Donald Trump to book during his campaign when he was running for district attorney. So, yes, it's a heavily Democratic city. But I don't think it's all sort of planned at some central place by the Democrats, as your Republican guests were implying. I think all these cases are proceeding in different jurisdictions at different pace, at different levels. And there's no master plan, because if there was a master plan, this is certainly not the case that should have been the first one to come to the fore.
So do you agree with Shalabh Kumar that the Democrats have actually shot themselves in the foot moving forward on this case, Seema?
I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but as I said earlier, this is the weakest of the 3-4 cases that are in process. So yes, this is where the prosecutor is trying to prove state law and sort of meld it with federal law on campaign finance, and try to show that this hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels was actually favoring Donald Trump's campaign. It's a very convoluted, twisted strategy. Most legal experts, including Democrats, have said this is not the best strategy and it can easily fail. In fact, the Washington Post did an editorial the day, last Friday when it became clear that he's going to appear on Tuesday. They did a long editorial saying this is just a crazy strategy and it would impact other cases in a negative way.
Okay, and that's why, Geeta, he's saying move this out of New York. He's also saying, apart from the motion to dismiss that we will hear in a moment from now, but his legal team is also saying this judge is biased. They're talking about his family being biased, the district attorney not being fair, and saying move it to Staten Island. All of this seem to indicate that at least the Republicans or at least Trump team are following one line of thought here.
One line of thought, also completely armed. This is going to be, it's an entire battalion, a force that's going into that court. It's about 157 there, 155 in New York. And in about 20 minutes from now, the arraignment will begin. And you're right, that's exactly what the lawyers are going in with, that they are going to talk about persecution. They are going to talk about, Trump is certainly going to play victim. They are going to talk about unfair process and the request to move. But also, I'm hearing that there could be a motion to dismiss. Either way, they're looking at trying to tear apart a case that has been made. And like Seema was saying just a while ago, that it was a long process. The investigations or all the documents that were collected were over the years. Today, in the arraignment proceedings, Gaurav, only the 34 counts of felony and charges are going to be spelt out. There are going to be no details of the police documents that are going to be made public. So all that's going to be made public are those 34 counts of charges against Donald Trump.
Darius Mayfield, the statute of limitation, does that also kick in? Trump's legal team insists that if the alleged crime, he of course says he's never had an affair with Stormy Daniels, but that alleged affair took place in 2006, the alleged payment took place in 2016, and this is 2023. How does that play out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is possible that we could see this case dismissed, not only on those charges. I know Bragg and his team are trying to claim that COVID slowed things down, so the statute of limitations should be extended. But that's not quite how, our judiciary system works. So again, it's just another one of those things that they're kind of just throwing against the wall. I know we said before, is this some kind of master plan from the Democrats? It's not. I don't think the Democrats could put together a master plan. As always, as we've seen with the Trump administration, they're throwing things against the wall and trying to get it done. Now, I disagree with a lot of folks here that say this is the least important case. I think this is probably the most important case that they have right now. One, because of the venue. It is in New York City, which is why the Trump team is trying to get that switched out. And we know they will do egregious things in New York City against somebody that they don't like. But two, because when you look at the cases like mishandling of classified information, Joe Biden completely botched that case because now we found hundreds of thousands of pages in his office, in his university office, in his home garage, and different things. And when it comes to Trump interfering in the election in Georgia, I mean, listen, I ran for Congress here in New Jersey last year. Let me just tell you guys, I was the only county in the entire United States of America where every single Dominion voting machine went down on the day of election. I think pursuing cases like that will only start to bring out more of the Democrats' indiscretions when it comes to elections and the safety of our elections and things of that sort. So they had to start in New York, where they have a biased judiciary system, a biased DA, a biased everything else, because this is their best shot. If this fails, they're done, and Trump will be your next president of the United States of America.
Okay. So in case this fails, and how soon do we know that once this process takes place, Seema? Before I bring in Lenka White, who joins us from Ground Zero, from that criminal court, what is the procedure from this point on, Seema, and how long will this case go? It clearly cannot stop Trump, can it, from running for president should he become the Republican nominee?
It would go on for a while, for weeks and months. If there are 34 counts, as you say, we know there are more than 30 counts. The examination of everything then goes to trial. I mean, we won't know what ultimately happens for a long time. And yes, he can run no matter whether he is proven guilty or exonerated. He can run for president. So right now, everything sort of seems to work in his favor, I would say. He will milk it to the maximum. He already is. The amount of publicity he's getting, I mean, it's quite crazy. CNN was covering from yesterday, minute to minute, movement, and have helicopters and things in the air. So this circus
Seema, give me a moment. Donald Trump has just put out a post. He said this is so surreal. Donald Trump, before he entered court, he actually put it out on Truth Social, his social media platform. That's when he was sitting into his SUV and going in for that 4-mile-long journey to the Manhattan criminal court, saying this is so surreal. He says he can't believe that he's actually being arrested and the due process of law. Can't believe this is happening in the United States of America. This is what Donald Trump is saying on Truth Social. Lenka, any information filtering out? Geeta, you're also tracking developments. Geeta, anything filtering out?
Well, right now, nothing. We are just 15 minutes away from the arraignment proceedings. So right now, nothing apart from the fact that, yes, Donald Trump has put out a message on the social media platform that he uses. And it indeed has been surreal for him, but also the fact that this is a moment in American history. Not a current or a sitting president or a former president has ever been charged. And there are criminal charges against Donald Trump. We'll have to wait and see what those details really entail. Like Seema said, there are more than 30 counts, so it is going to be a tedious and a long process. However, the proceedings today are going to be very, very short. And in about 15-20 minutes from when it begins, it'll all be over and he will be leaving the courtroom. What we are given to understand is that he's not going to stay the night in New York, that he'll be flying back to Florida, and that's where he'll be holding that. It's not a press conference, but he is going to have a televised address. So let's see.
What if there is a gag order? There are some reports that seem to indicate that the judge could put a gag order. Lenka, anything that you are hearing on the process, on the procedure from this point on? Okay, give me a moment as we try and reestablish that link with Lenka White. Large number of journalists there. Did they have to, Seema, deploy 35,000 police personnel in New York and 1,000 just along this journey? Was there any input to suggest that there could be a repeat of what happened at the Hill?
No, there wasn't any input to suggest that, but they just wanted to prevent a repeat of January 6th, when the Capitol Police were caught off guard, and when things got into motion, it took hours for them to block the protesters. By then, the protesters had entered Capitol Hill and had damaged so much of the building. So they absolutely didn't want that to happen again, because, not only was it a law and order problem where so many policemen got hurt on January 6th, but it was like a really bad advertisement for the United States, right? That your various security agencies can't get their act together, cannot coordinate with each other. So this time, New York police and federal law enforcement have all been sort of working together, monitoring social media and all of the Trump, chat groups and people who support him, like Proud Boys and all those sort of right-wing groups, to make sure to stay on top of any information that remotely indicates that there might be violence.
Okay, the statute of limitation is one part here. Who all can accompany him? Darius Mayfield, do we have any information on who all can accompany him inside the courtroom, and what's the procedure that takes place inside the courtroom before charges are read out? And does he plead not guilty, or does his legal team do all that?
Well, right now, nothing apart from the fact that, yes, Donald Trump has put out a message on the social media platform that he uses.
Yeah, right now it's unclear for people like myself. This is different, obviously, like it always is with Donald Trump. As you said before, he won't take a mugshot, he won't be in handcuffs. So who knows how the proceedings are really going to go. I would assume that he's going to do as little talking as possible, and it would be his lawyers advocating for him and giving his plea and things of that sort, which would probably be the smart thing to do, especially throughout, not just now, but throughout most of the case. We know Donald Trump is a very passionate man, and Donald Trump is from the East Coast like myself. He's an 80-year-old man from New York City, so he's going to speak his mind always. He is going to push back always. We are just conditioned to do that. But I would think as we start going through these proceedings, as this has gotten more and more real, you will see that kind of calm down in the public setting a little bit as his lawyers take more control, so they can go ahead and squash these charges as they should be and as they should have never been levied against him in the first place.
Okay, I want to cut across to Hiral Sachdev, who also joins us on the broadcast from New York. Hiral, what more can you tell us? What's happening on ground?
There are people, all sorts of people in the park across the courtroom showing support for Donald Trump, showing support for his prosecution. And it was pretty heated at some point. There were people who were pretty impassioned and had a very strong view on either side. So we actually saw that the park was divided into two parts, and people were encouraged to choose their side and stay on their side, so that there is no sort of clashes, there is no any sort of physical violence involved amongst the people present here. We also saw that a lady was chased out of the park because her sloganeering, her demeanor was so aggressive that the police thought that the situation is going to go out of control, and they asked her to leave the park. At the same time, at one point when I was standing there to do my send my live input there, I saw a man carrying a flag which was similar to the Trump supporters towards the side which was not supporting Trump, and people actually stopped him. So it's kind of everybody is watching this with bated breath. There are all sorts of people who are supporting Donald Trump, see hope in him. They see the fact that he never went to war with any other country. Inflation was under control when he was the president. And people who are against Donald Trump, they definitely see this as finally he's been brought to justice. So I spoke to a lady this morning, and the point that she made is the most rational that I heard through the day, that she believes in the judicial system of America, and she believes that whatever is lawfully correct, whoever is lawfully right will happen here. Justice will be served, and justice should be served.
Okay, but Hiral, are you getting a reaction on Donald Trump taking to his social media platform, not only saying things like this is surreal, can't believe this is happening in America, but also casting aspersions at the integrity of the judge, his family, the district attorney, and saying, move this case out of New York. I will not get a fair trial here. Move it at least to Staten Island.
Okay, so the courtroom and the area around it, if you walk past, there are people who are holding slogans against the prosecutors, the district attorney of New York City, Alvin Bragg, and there is no comment on the judge, because that is considered a major breach of conduct, and that is something that a defense team cannot afford at this point of time. So if you notice over the last few days, Donald Trump has actually gone down on his criticism of the judge and gone down on his criticism of the judicial system in general, because all that is going to weigh against him when this case goes to trial after the charges are pressed against him. But yes,
what happens now, Hiral? Hiral, stay with me for a moment. See, Hiral, what happens now? He's inside the courtroom. Any information filtering out, whether the fingerprinting has happened, whether his secret service is with him, who are his lawyers, what's happening inside?
Well, the security around the main building is so tight, they are allowing very few people around there. The media has been barricaded literally a block away, so that street is completely closed for traffic or any sort of public movement. So we know for the fact that he's already entered the building. There is a procedure that needs to be followed stepwise, and like I said, a few of these steps might be skipped in his case, but 2:15 is the time allotted when he has to be present in front of the judge, where his charges will be read out to him. and when he's likely to plead not guilty. Now, as far as his counsel goes, the most vocal and the face of the defense lawyers is Takupanya, and he very clearly said in the morning that they are going to plead not guilty. There is another lawyer being brought on the team this morning. So clearly, Trump is not leaving any stone unturned in keeping his legal counsel as safe and as strong as possible for the time ahead.
And there is tremendous excitement from some of the reports we are hearing, and of course from your report that we saw a while back, that said people actually were camping outside the Manhattan Criminal Court overnight to be able to be there and see history being made.
Yes, this is very likely in America. I mean, the protest, the kind of protest that I'm seeing, the kind of interest that people have come with. They've come dressed up. They've come with effigies. It's people were clearly preparing for this moment. Okay, and now that it is here, everybody who wants to express themselves as strongly as possible is in that park right now and vociferously doing so.
Okay, his team, Geeta, is very clear. They move motion for dismissal. His team is very clear. They'll attack the judge. They'll attack everybody, because that way, does that put the judge on notice that, you know, the judge knows whatever he says, the whole world is watching, and he will have to be impartial given the charges of bias, Geeta?
Well, that's right. But before I answer your question, Gaurav, going back to what Hiral just said of the protesters and the clashes or brief clashes that were witnessed, is the reason why the police presence around Manhattan Court today. Not just police, but also Secret Service, given that he's the former president of the United States of America. Coming back to the judge, now he has toned down only just ahead of these arraignment hearings. But before that, on Truth Social, he had characterized Merchant as the same person who railroaded him, his 75-year-old former CFO, Alan Wieselberg. He basically is trying to make a case saying that, the judge was somebody who forced his colleague to plead guilty and else suffer the consequences, which he did. And this time around, he and his company, Trump Organization, is not going to plead guilty despite the vicious consequences that he says he could suffer. So there is an entire play, a narrative that has been set already, Gaurav, of what it means to be in New York, what it means to fight a case in New York, what it means to stand before this particular judge in New York and fight this case. He's already built that narrative. Now it's just about the fact that he's going in, he's going to face the same judge, and that's why he's toned down a little, but does not take away from the fact that his supporters who've been backing him are speaking the same language, even if he is not, that this is going to be a biased judge and the verdict is going to be biased. Any forward movement would show that he's leaning in one direction, not the other, so on and so forth. So again, very interesting. Right now, we're only looking at 34 counts or over 30 counts of charges against Trump.
Yes.
That would be read out, be made public. And from there, we'll have to see how Team Trump versus the authorities are going to take the case forward.
Seema, does that put the judge on the defensive if a former president is saying so many things about him in public domain, giving instances, talking not just about the judge, but also his family, his daughter? Does that put the judge on the defensive?
I don't think so. See, Trump's lawyer, the main guy, he said that he has full faith in the judge, that he's a very fair judge. So, you know, in public, everybody is going to maintain that the judiciary is unbiased, the judges are unbiased, and they just, rule on the law. But we also have to remember that it is an administration that appoints some of these judges, right? So Trump had a chance to appoint so many judges. He appointed 3 Supreme Court judges. That is going to change life in America forever. Has already changed. So in that sense, judges have certain allegiances or certain leanings, but when they rule, they have to look at the facts before them. And I think by and large, they do that.
Okay. Also joining us on this broadcast is Aviruk Sen, author of the book Looking for America. And when you look at America right now, Aviruk, what do you see when this case is about, Donald Trump is about to hear those apparently 34 charges that are to be read out against him, and he intends to plead, according to his legal team, not guilty, Aviruk? Okay, give me a moment. I'll try and reestablish that link with Aviruk Sen. But Seema, if I would come back to you on the statute of limitation. Trump's legal team insists the alleged affair took place in 2006. The alleged payment took place in 2016. Now this is 2023. Statute of limitation in New York state law says not more than a case not more than 2 years old. Does that also strengthen Trump's case and weaken the case against him?
Well, the prosecutor has said that COVID delayed everything dramatically, and that is a fact. COVID delayed everything everywhere in every institution. And also the case is built on the fact that the money that was paid was in 2016, right? And it was then shown as legal services to Michael Cohen, his lawyer. So that is quite recent. Now the alleged act took place a long time ago. Of course, Donald Trump denies that completely, that he ever had an affair with Stormy Daniels. But the prosecution's case is built on this fact, that the money, the $130,000 that were paid, were then shown as legal fees